Hello and welcome to another YuGiOh video, and today we are taking a look at the upcoming Ignister archetype from the Yu-Gi-Oh anime, and this is a pretty cool archetype. It uses monsters of pretty much every extra deck type to allow you to establish some pretty decent boards that can OTK and push through any type of resource that your opponent is able to throw at you. So we will be covering the full effects of all of these cards in order to give you the full breakdown. And this is absolutely a going second list designed to try and, break into Top Cut at some sort of, small regional type event. So we start off with Triple Picari at Ignister. So this is a card which allows you to add one AI spell or trap from your deck to your hand when it is normal or special summoned. Also, you can target one Ignister monster you control and turn it into a level 4 monster until the end of the turn. Each of these effects can only be used once per turn. That's a very similar thing for most of the Ignister cards, is they have a summon effect and then they have an additional effect, and they can each only be used once per turn. They're also all Cybers, all level 4 or lower, apart from the Ritual monster which we won't be covering today, and some of the extra deck monsters, and they all pretty much have different attributes in order to coincide with their extra deck versions. Then we have 3 copies of Achichi at Ignister. So if this card is normal or special summoned, you can add one level 4 or lower at Ignister monster from your deck to your hand, except for itself, and at the start of the damage step, if your Cybers monster battles, you can banish this card from your graveyard, destroy that monster you control. This is sort of to link with one of the extra deck monsters that we're not actually playing, which is Blaze Phoenix, I believe. So if you're interested in that one, definitely check it out, but not something we need to care about. Then I'm playing 2 copies of Doyon at Ignister. So if this card is normal or special summoned, you can target one of your at Ignister monsters in your graveyard, add it to your hand. If this card is sent to the graveyard as material of the link summon of a Cyberse monster, you can target one AI spell or trap in your graveyard, add it to your hand. You can only use each effect of Doyon at Ignister once per turn. Same thing as before. This recurs your graveyard resources fairly nicely. 2 copies of Bururu. This is typically a one-of in this deck, but you'll see why I'm playing 2 in just a moment. So if this is summoned, you get to send one of your at Ignister monsters from your deck to your graveyard. And if this is sent to the graveyard as a material for a Synchro Summoner of a Cybers monster, there are a couple of options out there. Then you can target one monster in your graveyard that was sent for the material, except for this, so basically send this and something else for the Synchro Summon, and then you get to summon back that other monster. You can only use each effect once per turn. Fairly reasonable. I think you're getting the idea with these cards so far. And then finally for the at Ignisters, 2 copies of Doshin. Let's cover this effect first, and then I'll explain why this is a little bit atypical. So if you control an at Ignister monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can target one Cybers Link monster in your graveyard, return it to the extra deck, and if you do add one AI Love Fusion from your deck to your hand, you can only use each effect once per turn. So the interesting thing that sort of separates this version of the list to some of the others that you'll see is there's another card called Hiyari at Ignister, which is a water one. And it has the same first line, the same if you control an at Ignister monster, then you can special summon it. Now the reason why I don't play it is because that card is designed to work in conjunction with the Ritual card, which I don't want to play because it's far too, it seems far too bricky for the reward that you would get from that. So I'm just playing this one. They're essentially the same card, except you have one less special summon potentially. But in order to do all the combos, you don't actually need both of them anyway. So it seemed pretty reasonable to not play both of them. So that is it for the at Ignister lineup. A pretty nice set of monsters that we are adding into the game. So then for additional support, 2 copies of Flame Buffalo and 1 copy of Dot Scraper. So these are just additional summons, and then this gives you additional draws. This is the kind of deck where if you don't see enough cards in your opening hand, then you're really going to struggle. So there's a lot of draw power in here, including 2 copies of the Flame Buffalo. Then we will move on to 3 Ash Blossom. We need a reasonable hand trap, and Ash Blossom is one of the most generic options available. No more monsters in this deck, and the rest of it, you'll be fairly unsurprised to realize, it's just going to be spells. So triple Ignista AI land is definitely worth discussing this one. So if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower Ignista monster from your hand. Also, for the rest of the turn, you cannot special summon other monsters with that same original attribute by this card's effect, and you cannot special summon monsters except Cyberse monsters, so you're always going to be locked into Cyberse monsters from your extra deck. This is your key combo enabler because it allows you to keep summoning. Now that effect is not once per turn, so for all of your Ignista monsters, you can just keep summoning another attribute and keep going through all of them. Additionally, what is the last thing? If this card is in your graveyard, you can banish 1 Ignista monster from your graveyard, set this card to your field. You can only use this effect of Ignista AI land once per turn. Just to point out, this is an island, and you know, AI island. Nice pun there, Code Army. Then we play a 4th copy of that, which is the Terraforming. There's also a searchable monster reborn here, which is Idle Reborn. Quick play, target 1 Ignista monster in your graveyard, special summon it. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Cyberse monsters. Absolutely fine, there's no problem with that. When an attack is declared involving 2 monsters, you can banish this card from your graveyard, add 1 card from and 1 card from your hand, then target 1 of your AI spells or traps in your graveyard, except this, add it to your hand. You can only use each effect once per turn. That second effect doesn't seem that great at the moment, although potentially it's going to be more powerful in the future, we'll just have to see. And the final one is AI Love Fusion, or I Love Fusion. You just summon a Cyberse Fusion monster from your extra deck, and then if you're using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material, if you use an Ignista monster as a fusion material, you can also use up to 1 link monster your opponent controls as a material. So it's like a mini Super Poly. Which is searchable off the Doshin as well. So that's it for the thematic cards. And then we play Draw Power, so Upstart Goblin, 3 Desires, hence the multiple 2 copies of Bururu, Doshin, etc. 3 Mining, 2 Mind Control because it's a Go second deck, 3 Super Poly, I couldn't find mine, so here are some proxies. And the final card that is going to be coming out in the same set as these guys is Lightning Storm, the perfect going second card. And that is it for the deck. Oh, sorry, just in case you don't know what Lightning Storm does, here's a quick close-up. If you control no face-up cards, activate one of these effects, destroy all attack position monsters your opponent controls, or destroy all spells and traps your opponent controls. So board wipes of all the important stuff, basically. Yeah, so that's it for the main deck. Let's move on to the extra deck. Now, I put Dark Templar at the start, but if we want to go in the link climbing order, perhaps I should go back a little bit further. So we start off with Linkuriboh. Now, this card did recently get announced for the set. We didn't know if it was going to be like a promo coming out a little bit later, but it is going to actually be in Ignition Assault. So it just takes 1 level 4 or lower Cyberse monster to summon, and when your opponent activates a trap card as a quick effect, you can tribute this card, negate the activation, and if you do, banish that card. Not too shabby. If this card is in your graveyard, quick effect, you contribute 1 Ignista monster that was special summoned from the extra deck, and then special summon this card, which is what enables some of your OTKs. A very, very nice option. You can only use each effect once per turn, but really not a problem. Decent link arrow, and a great effect for some OTK combos. Then we have 1 Cyberse Wicked. This is used for a lot of the combos. So essentially, if a Cyberse monster is, if a monster is special summoned to a zone that this card points to, while you control it, except during the damage step, you banish the Cyberse monster from your graveyard, and then add 1 Cyberse Tuner from your deck to your hand. Now, it's important to note the only Cyberse Tuner that we have in this deck is the Bururu, the wind one. Let me just find that one for you, the Bururu here. So you summon something to this card zone, add the Bururu, and then extend your plays through that. The Bururu is actually really important because of that effect that it can special summon an extra card after you go into a Synchro summon. Then 1 Update Jammer, this is for the non-Ignista OTK, which I like quite a lot. 1 IP Masquerena, don't actually have a copy yet, but yeah, here's a proxy. 2 non-link monsters going into your Cyberse monster, not bad at all. It's just nice to have this sort of ability to make your monster virtually indestructible. So then back to the Archetype cards, we have the Dark Templar Atignista. So this does require 3 monsters with different names. It's a little bit difficult to summon as a result, but really great link arrows, really great effect. So if a monster is special summoned to a zone this card points to, even during the damage step, very important that one, you can special summon as many level 4 or lower Atignista monsters from your graveyard as possible to your zones this card points to, but negates their effects. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can special summon a Cybers monster from your graveyard. You can only use each effect once per turn. The first effect is the really important part. So if you have this card out on your field, and you summon your Doshin through its own effect to a zone, your Dark Templar can then revive 2 more of your monsters from your graveyard, which can potentially recur you a whole bunch of cards. So very, very important. You only need the 1 copy, in my opinion. I haven't actually seen a list that plays 2 at the moment, and generally, when you're going into this, you're then pushing for the OTK, so it doesn't really matter about having an additional copy in the extra deck. Then 1 Transcode Talker for the OTK combo, 1 Avramax. So if you don't manage to OTK your opponent when you put your Dark Templar on the board, you want to be able to turn it into something valuable. And you have to summon a Cybers monster, so Avramax is one of the best options for you to be able to go to as a link 4 that's reasonably easy to summon, and a Cybers. And the final Cybers monster in this extra deck is Firewall Dragon Dark Fluid. If only it didn't have that bit, that would be pretty nice, right? But yeah, 3+ effect monsters. You get some very cool effects if you're able to summon this and have a bunch of different types of Cybers monster in your graveyard. And as you'll see from the rest of the extra deck, we are going to go into other types of Cybers monsters a lot, which means this guy will always have a lot of counters, which means this guy will have a lot of effect negates and also a lot of attacks, so definitely one worth including here. This is probably the first deck that can actually viably summon out this card, so it's nice to actually see that happen. And then we have 1 Starving Venom Dragon, one of the best super poly targets, so may as well just play it in here. And then 1 Earth Golem at Ignista. So not yet released, hence the proxy here, but you need a Cybers monster and a Link monster to summon it. I'll be honest, I don't think the effect of it is relevant at all. It's just important for fusing away your opponent's monsters, because you can super poly their Cybers and their Link monster, or you can use the AI fusion to get rid of their Link monster for this fusion summon. Which, remember, the fusion card is searchable off your Doshin as well, so just the 2 fusions there. And then for Synchros, 1 Wind Pegasus at Ignista. This card does actually have a relevant effect. So it needs a tuner and a non-tuner. It's level 7, it's Wind. You'll summon it with the Bururu. During a main phase, you can destroy spells or traps your opponent controls up to the number of at Ignista monsters you control. If another card you control is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect while this card is on the field or in the graveyard, you can banish this card, then target 1 card your opponent controls, shuffle it into the deck. You can only use each effect once per turn. Not really an issue. You basically never want to banish this from the field, you'll only be banishing it from the graveyard. And if you could recycle it, it'd be pretty nice, but it's not that much of an issue anyway. So that's the first Synchro monster we play, and the second one is Cybers Quantum Dragon. So this one's pretty nice. If you control the Link monster, monsters your opponent controls cannot target monsters you control for attacks, except this guy. Not too bad. Also, your opponent cannot target monsters you control with card effects, except this one. Once per turn, at the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can return that monster to the hand. Also, it can make a second attack. So you attack your opponent's Thunder Dragon Colossus, return it to the hand, attack again, return. Not too shabby at all, but that's it for the Synchro monsters. And the final 2 monsters we have are 2 Xyz monsters, which are both Light Dragon at Ignista. So this is the cover card for the Ignition Assault set. It requires just 2 level 4 monsters. There's no requirement to summon the Cybers monsters to go into this. And it gives you protection from destruction by card effects by detaching a material from this card. Additionally, for your Cybers focused strategies, your at Ignista strategy, you can detach a material from this card, destroy face-up monsters your opponent controls, up to the number of at Ignista monsters you control, which at the point when you activate this is generally 3. When your other Cybers monster inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can special summon 1 at Ignista monster from your graveyard. So you're able to use this to push masses of damage and remove all of your opponent's monsters, which is very, very strong. So that is it for the list itself. There are quite a few combo videos out there available on the internet, but I want to show you two very quick combos for OTKing your opponent, including a very basic combo and then a much more complicated combo which allows you to use the full-fledged set of the Ignister monsters. So the first combo that we'll look at is very basic. You just need Picari, Ignister, and Doyon Ignister. So summon your Picari, use its effect to add Ignister Island, activate the island, and then link this Picari into your Lingeribo. You're then going to use the island to summon the Doyon from your hand. That will trigger its effect to add back the Picari. You can then link these two guys into an update jammer. You can then use Island to summon your Picari, because you haven't actually used Island to summon Light yet. You won't be able to activate its effect again, but you can then link these two guys into a transcode talker, and this is a very typical combo that we've seen with other Cyburst decks. You'll trigger the update jammer so this guy can attack twice, you'll use the transcode to summon this guy out, and then you have masses of damage, so you have 23 boosted up to 28 twice, which is 56 from this guy, and this is on 25, so that is exactly 8,100 damage. So this next combo requires you to have a Picari and a Chi-Chi in your hand. It doesn't require Lingeribo, so it's a combo that would have been possible even if that hadn't actually come out. And it does allow you to go through a lot more of your Ignister monsters, so let's show you this one. So you summon your Picari, search out your island, very typical for this deck. Link this off into your Lingeribo or other suitable Link 1 monster, then activate your island, and use it to special summon the Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi will search out Doyon. So then you can link these two into your Wicked, which we'll just put over here. Actually, let's put it over here, you can see it a little bit better. And then Island again, summon out your Doyon to a zone that this guy points to. Wicked will then trigger as well as your Doyon. So your Doyon is going to add back your Picari from the graveyard, because you haven't summoned it off that island yet. And your Wicked is going to banish either of these two. I generally go for the Chi-Chi because you can use your Lingeribo to recur stuff in the future, and that will add the Bururu from deck to hand. Then from here you can link these two in order to go into a transcode talker, and then you can use the island to summon your Bururu to the field. Let's just put it over here. Transcode will summon your Wicked, and then you can link all of these in order to summon out your Templar. Keep in mind you could have actually used the Picari. In this instance it doesn't actually matter at that point, because both of them can be summoned off the island. So then we can summon the Picari off the island, trigger the effect of the Templar, bring back the Bururu, bring back the Doyon. You can send one, sorry, you can't send one off this because its effect is negated, so, but it doesn't really matter, you don't actually need to send it at any point for this particular combo. Then what we're going to do is we're going to synchro summon, so let's use these two into the Wind Pegasus, trigger the Bururu to summon back the Picari. Let's just put it here. We can then use Wind Pegasus to get rid of 1, 2, 3, 4 spells and traps that the opponent has. We can turn these two into the Light Dragon at Ignister, use its effect to get rid of the 1, 2, 3 monsters that our opponent potentially has, and then we can start to do some damage. So we attack with the Dark Templar. Actually, hold on, let's do this the correct way. Let's attack with the Wind Pegasus first, since both of these are on 2300. Trigger the effect of the Light Dragon to summon back the transcode. It can summon any of the Cyberst monsters back. Link it with our Dark Templar, which is now on 2800 instead, and then attack with these guys. So how much damage have we done? So we've done 23 plus 28 is 51, plus another 28, and then another 23 on top of that. So masses of damage available here through a very simple Ignister combo that allows you to wipe 4 spells and traps, and 3 monsters before you even get to dealing some damage. Thanks very much for watching this video. Let me know if you have any comments or suggestions on the build, and I'll see you guys in the next video.